Welcome to the Schmoopydady streaming experience. I'm your host, as per usual, Schmoopydady. If it's the first time you're watching the stream, the VOD, or the video on YouTube, I'm a monthly Hearthstone Wild Legend player who typically hits Legend first of the month, and after that I goof off. When I goof off, I play your decks. And I'm not playing decks tonight, but what I am doing is I am doing a brief YouTube that is long overdue of playable decks in the Wild meta. Now, I don't necessarily do tier lists. I think actually Pyramidhead has been doing some wonderful job on Reddit, going through HS Guru data and then sifting through it and listing decks in a tier list based off of the data that HS Guru says. He then writes it up and I think does a very nice measured an analysis of the data. But I think the one thing that's left to be desired is he's just sort of blindly taking deck lists from HS Guru and saying, okay, if this is the highest win rate, it makes it. And this is going to be the deck that ends up showcasing the deck. And as much as I would love to just always agree with that approach, I've seen some top lists on HS Guru, and they look like a drunk person made them and then posted them and got a bunch of idiots to play them. I don't think every top list on HS Guru is optimized, and I don't think that's necessarily something that's easy to prove, especially if the stats say it is the best list. I think sometimes you can sort of accept that, and sometimes you look at some things and you say, well, Reno Druid probably should always run Aviana, right? But the highest win rate version of Reno Druid on HS Guru didn't have Aviana because the person who played it, when they initially made the tweet, said, I don't have her crafted. She should probably go in here. It would have made my games easier, but didn't have it. And yet somehow, that became the top list. So I think there's some obvious errors sometimes in the list, so you shouldn't just blindly take whatever's on HS Guru and then go for it. But it is a good place to start, and it's a good place to get great data. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the best decks I think that are there in the meta. Right now, I think it's an interesting argument to guess what the best deck is, but I think Reno Holy Wrath Paladin is sort of consistently finding itself at the top of the list or towards the top of the list. If you like playing decks that can just sort of sit there twiddling its thumbs and all of a sudden, boom, bang, hit you for 100 damage, this is a pretty good climbing deck too. I don't think the games are particularly long. I think it is a little bit more vulnerable to aggro than it looks on the surface, but it got much better getting stuff like, is Showdown in here? I don't even know. I grabbed this from somebody else. It got a lot better with stuff like Prismatic Beam. I think you could definitely make a case for Showdown making this list, but this is the list I got from NHL Fan that does not have Showdown in it. Stuff like Cold Feet's anti-combo. If you want to go more anti-aggro, you could cut the Cold Feet for probably Showdown, and that's a good one for one. I've digressed. This deck is very good, and, it's the closest thing we got to a Reno slop pile, where as long as you have the Ceaseless Expanse, Reno, Polkelt, Holy Wrath, couple Dredgers, Finley, there's some core cards that are in here, but the rest you can kind of fill out over Planner. The rest you can kind of fill out with whatever cards you want. And as long as they're not completely fucking up your curve, you can kind of get away with it. Okay. This is an XL Shadow Priest list. Corb recently hit rank 1 with just normally 30 Shadow Priest. I still think the better version of Shadow Priest is XL. I think the stats keep telling us the best version of Shadow Priest is XL. I'm going to continue to play the XL Shadow Priest. I know the greater community that I see playing the game doesn't agree with me and instead plays 30 Priest. I think 30 Priest is better into a meta where you're expecting more fast combo. And so you can definitely justify the faster starts there. But 30 Shadow Priest often loses to one board clear or a second board clear, whereas the XL version of Shadow Priest kind of hangs around for a long time. My list did get 2 cards nerfed. We lost Gorgon Zormu, which is now a 4-mana card, probably too expensive for the list. And I cut my ETC, which had Raza the Resealed in it. Raza the Resealed was amazing for long games because you could kind of just keep pinging and keep pinging and keep pinging and get them close, then eventually get them. Instead, we've put in the newly reverted Rowdy Fan, which is testing very well in some 30 lists. And so I think in a list that's XL, where we have some bigger butts and some minions that really stick on board, I'm excited to try this tomorrow and let this rip and see if this is a decent addition to the deck. It was busted in Standard at the time. It deserved the nerf that it got. A deck that is consistently being seen at the top of lists that nobody at High Legend plays but statistically looks very good is Seedlock. I 1-for-1 snagged Corbett's newly crafted Seedlock from the Corbett Discord. If you're not in Discord, you should probably find yourself there. We're making use of Rotted Apple. We're making use of Infinite Heals. It's funny, Seedlock has kind of morphed itself into an anti-aggro deck that is also really good into control. And so it's pretty well placed right now to be a very, very, very good deck, very strong into the meta, and actually probably an okay climbing deck because it eats 30 Shadow Priest alive. I think XL Shadow Priest has a little bit of a better chance. It might be reversed, maybe a faster start on average, even if you just lose to 1 Defile is the way to go. I'm not sure. Either way, Shadow Priest feels like an unfavored matchup. Seedlock is probably pretty close. Anything remotely slow, you always have that inevitability. Corbett got up to close to rank 1 with Call to Arms Paladin. Call to Arms Paladin is testing right now on HS Guru as a tier 1 deck. Weblord is incredibly strong in the meta, and I think especially if you get a Weblord out early against Libram Paladin, they just kind of cry. None of their cards are playable. If they're still running glow sticks, that's one of the things they can do to remove it. We're running ways of increasing our health and stuff. And so Corb Call to Arms Paladin seems very strong. Try out this list. I think it's probably, if not tier 1, high tier 2. It just looks really, really good. Weblord's really good right now. I've digressed. Hostage Mage is still Hostage Mage. I would like to note that in NHL's latest version of Hostage Mage, we're sneaking in a rat. We're cutting one Mana Biscuit, and we are now doubling up on Shield Battery. Shield Battery is so funny how good it can be just on its own. If you've managed to find a way to just, keep making extra copies and have copied potion, sometimes you can just combo with Romath and just keep opponent out of harm's way, at arm's distance, just gaining armor every turn and playing 7 Romaths. I'd like to note one little cute thing that we have in the ETC. OTZ thought of putting Lorekeeper Polkelt in the ETC, which I think is phenomenal. If you've already drawn the Ceaseless Expanse, Polkelt then will always get your Grandmaster Romath, which can be key if, let's say, you don't necessarily need the Light Show, or you've already gotten the Light Show and you want to be greedy and get your 3rd card, or if you need to pull an oh shit handle and absolutely, absolutely need to go find your Romath so that you can find some survival, or need to find the Ceaseless Expanse because you need a clear. I just think he's really cute. So that's a really cool 3rd card, probably the best 3rd card I've seen yet. I'd play it over Flurry, and so this deck is still very, very good in my eyes, but kind of hard to play and not often played lower down. Pirate DH. Pirate DH still going strong. We still have the dual patches. Not a lot changed. The one thing that's weird about the list is there's some lists that are running 2 Glides. Glide is looking really good in the stats. I think it's because of all the tokens that we end up dumping into our deck. Glide also becomes a way to go get more burn. What have I been saying about pirate decks and Libram Paladin? You can get under Libram Paladin. You can beat up Libram Paladin with a good pirate opener. And Pirate DH is one of those those aggro decks that really doesn't play like an aggro deck. It's got a lot of sustain. It plays a little bit more like a mid-range, or like, kind of a weird burn deck that's just sort of slowly chipping you away, and then eventually just gets rid of you. Decent day 1 climbing deck, I would think, except I still think the matchup into Shadow Priest is miserable. So I would probably stay away. I'll probably end up staying away from it just because one of my most common matchups is going to be, nothing but Agony. But I digress. This deck is looking very strong. Okay, Libram Paladin. I literally took the version that Corbett threw on his Discord, but I cut the Draenei that tutors other Draenei, and I put in Zephyrs the Great because I'm pretty sure Corb got to 30 cards. It's just like, fuck it, this sucks the least, and threw it in. I've really enjoyed playing Zeph in Libram Paladin as a way to find outs or pop block, so I'm going to leave him in there even if he's bad. What else? Oh, yeah, we have Showdown Beam in this deck. Showdown and Beam do not look hot. You might just cut those. You might just cut Showdowns and Beams and put in Rebukes and Cold Feet. I honestly can be Rebukes and Cold Feet probably win more games. I'm shipping this code because this is what Corp put out, but yeah, Beam, Showdown don't look good in Libram Paladin. Meanwhile, in the Call to Arms Paladin, they look phenomenal. So maybe it's part of like how we're finding Beam. Maybe it's how we're finding Showdown. I'm not sure. Beam, I imagine, is a little bit better in books than, let's say, the Showdown has. I've been super unimpressed with the Showdown. Malygos Druid. I still see people playing Malygos Druid. Malygos Druid is Malygos Druid. I've talked about this deck a lot. Looks really linear, except it's not really linear. It can be linear, but also it has some really fun lines on the outside to get some fun lethals. Probably the most resilient combo deck out there. I would absolutely play it. It's a lot of fun and a very strong deck. I had somebody in my comments being like, hey, how is it in the 30 Shadow Priest? 30 Shadow Priest is probably one of the harder matchups, but it's not an impossible one, especially if you are doing the patented Nightshade Bud into Reno back to 40 health with A&R line. That one's a pretty fun one. Okay. Starting to get into the spicy section of the decks that I'm highlighting. Quest Mage. Quest Mage is back. Spam a bunch of spells. Go in turn 3 or turn 4. The mulligan is go find the girls. Find Magister's Apprentice. Find Sorcerer's Apprentice. I will sometimes keep my volume up on the coin if I have those two already, or if I have one of those two. Copper has cut volume up because you can't draw the girls with volume up. So Arcane Intellect and Wisdom of Norgannon are thought to be a lot better. The Stellar Balance is a decent hit off of the Stargazing because it gets you two 0-mana spells that you can cast at whatever you'd like and go from there. If you've ever seen Copper or KVLT play this deck, it's really fun. It's really, really cool. The combo turns are amazing. Zeph getting active in a Flat Earth deck is always fun for me. Spamming down the Arcane Giants. Conjurer's Calling has been changed so that now the 12 drops get turned into 10 drops. And oh boy, that makes this deck even spicier. You get some really crazy outs or some really unlucky rolls at times. Definitely check this out when I've played this in my videos because it's very entertaining, but also it's a fun deck. Excuse me. All right, moving on. Okay. QB Ping Mage. Yeah, Ping Mage is real tier 2, real tier 3. I think it's going to get a lot worse when people figure out how to play against it, and right now people kind of don't. Gesundheit, thank you. The big interaction that we're looking for is we're looking to pair Sing-Along Buddy with Reckless Apprentice into a big board with a nice buffed up hero power, and we blow the opponent to the moon. QB is using Ice Block as a way to stall, some Frost Novas, some Vardens, so he's kind of like holding up the opponent's board, sometimes getting rid of early threats with First Flame. Not sold on Miracle Salesman, neither is QB. QB is just like, it hasn't sucked. And, setting them up and then knocking them out in a punch. This is going to be, I think, the new Drooler deck. I think it's okay in the Librams because Librams are kind of slow, and this can kind of pick up. And QB says he loves playing against Libram Paladins because they play lots of minions, and he gets to, they're kind of slow, and he gets to stall them out. Timeline Accelerator to go get a 0-mana Sing-Along Buddy is kind of cute, by the way, as a one-of. Keep that in mind, too. I think the deck is playable. This is like the one new deck that we got. People already hate it because they hate getting punished for playing minions, and I don't really blame them. So I don't think this deck should necessarily get nerfed, but I don't know. Reddit can do anything. Through the power of Reddit and Zeddy, anything can happen. Mecha'thun Druid. I've been impressed by how decent this deck is and how resilient it is actually into aggro. Hold on. Did Lorat finally cut the... Oh, God. Wait. I got this from Lorat. No. Did he finally cut the Lunars? Wow, I was using the Lunars into aggro, but looking at the list for the first time, holy crap, Larat's gone and done it. He's cut the Lunars. A play that I think is worth mentioning. I played this deck a lot, or at least a different version of this deck on a different video. I did it for a whole Monday. I did all my wins. I did all my losses. And you got to see every decision I made that was right and every decision that I made that was wrong. But something to keep in mind is one of the most underrated plays is Nightshade in Wild is Nightshade Bud into ANR into full heal. It buys you so much time, especially once you then you find the ability to cast your Celestial Alignment and find your Anaconda and pop off. So that's really cool. Keep that in mind. This is a pretty cool combo deck to learn. If you're into a bunch of hyper aggro, it's a little tough, but yeah. Astral Communion is playable. It's playable because of Ysera. Now we go over 10 mana and we can play multiple things, or we can draw into things and then play things. But Astral Communion's kind of playable. Would I try to climb with it? No. Would I attempt to be competitive with it? No, probably not. It's probably my dick around deck. But you know what? It's a hell of a dick around deck, and it does actually kind of work. New cards like Forest Lord Cenarius. This card's actually kind of busted. Every time this has hit the ground when I've been playing in a game, I've lost, but I've usually lost because I'm playing a deck that loses to this sort of thing. But you've got some cute plays, and it's very spicy. I especially love the Astral here. This was really clever to leave open the possibility of doing your Aviana, no brand, but just sort of Aviana plays, dropping all 3 stages. Pretty cool. Okay, this is a personal project of mine. I think if Even Warrior is playable, and I do think it's playable, even though I forgot to put a list on here. I forgot. It'll be on the tiny URL that I attached in the description. Even Warrior seems playable. It dumpsters aggro, and it kind of loses to anything that's kind of slow. Except Martian was like, well, I'm beating the slow stuff too, but that might be Martian being Martian. I always thought that Skipper Warrior, Odin Skipper Warrior, was better than Even Warrior when Even Warrior was good. And I think it's better than Even Warrior now. And I've played some games with this list off stream, and I've really liked it. I would especially like it if I was seeing mostly Libram Paladin and Shadow Priests. Libram Paladin looks like a tough matchup on paper until you consider the fact that we have 4 mana Sanitize. This card is so disgusting that I think it actually, for both Even and for Skipper Warrior, this kind of flips the Libram Paladin matchup all on its own. You get enough armor, and then you can kind of kill anything. 30 Shadow Priests weep at this list. This is what I'm going to end up playing if I get 10x, if I get 11x. We'll see. Zach Hunter. I played this up to almost 11x range, possibly into 11x range. It's just a token hunter with some secrets, playing the really good, like, blow out your opponent early stuff, make big Whopper Tingers, Awakening Tremors. The secrets deal damage and are generally annoying. They reverted this so that it's 6 mana, deal 12, and just sort of go to town on the opponent. Make good hunter plays. I don't know. It has felt pretty strong to me, and it's felt competitive, especially into getting under Libram Paladins. But it is on the spicy end. Mech Rogue, this is apparently getting really good stats on HS Guru. Femboy Germa's been playing it a lot and submitting it a lot, and I haven't had a ton of success, but unnerfed Lab Constructor, when you slap a couple of cheap, Spark bots on it, and you give it Reborn and Elusive, and the opponent can't get rid of it, and it keeps copying itself, it's kind of gross. So the earlier you can get the Lab Constructor out, the cooler and nicer your day seems to go. And also, I forgot the Even Warrior. I think Even Warrior is really consistent. If you are seeing mostly aggro and it's day 1, so you're going to see a lot of aggro, I think Even Warrior, especially the Marshy build, which I'll attach on here, would go very, very well into that sort of meta. And you're going to have some success. I'm not going to say the easiest climb, because there are going to be some matchups you queue into that you're not meant to win. But you could still kind of win. So, huge deck update. It will be 16 decks in total when it's all done. Top of the list, I would say, is a little bit more of the refined, definitely good stuff. Not necessarily climbing stuff with a Hostage Mage. I'd probably move that down a couple as far as climbing goes, but just like one of the best decks in the format. Into more of the spicy region, but I'd say all of this on here is playable and competitive in its own way. And that's kind of a testament to how diverse and balanced and just sort of wide open the Wild meta is right now. It could be a lot worse. I don't think this set brought a whole lot to Wild, which is a little bit upsetting and frustrating, but at the same time, Wild left as it is in a really good place. So that's pretty cool. And if you enjoy this content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing on my YouTube channel.